Hey guys, so this video is to help you with problems 80 through 89 in the test packet. So I just wanted to talk about the first thing, which is just making sure that you know what an angle is. So in math, in geometry, an angle is made up of two parts. Actually, it's got three parts really, I guess. So it's got this part right here that starts right here and continues on forever in one direction. Now I know it continues on forever in this direction because there's an arrow right here that shows that it keeps going. And it starts here because there's just a dot, there's nothing that extends in the opposite direction. So this part right here, from that dot out to this arrow right here, is called a ray. Kind of think of like a ray of sunshine. This would be the sun, and this ray comes out and it's just going on forever until it hits the earth or wherever it goes. So it's made up of one ray, a second ray, all right, so this is also a ray. And then this spot where they meet is called the vertex. I don't think they're going to ask you for that information, but it's important for what we're going to do in just a second, all right? So in this one you can see here's one ray, here's another ray right here, and this spot where they meet is called the vertex. All right, now the reason I'm telling you that is because one thing that they want us to do is they want us to measure the size of the rays. So hopefully you can tell this ray, it opens much wider than this one. But how wide do each of them open? We want to measure that. So I can't measure it with a ruler because a ruler just measures how long something is. This is asking pretty much how wide is the opening. All right, so what number would we associate with that versus with that? All right, so that's what we're going to do. And to do that, we have a special tool that we need, and it's called a protractor. All right, so it looks like this. You might have one lying around your house, but I'm going to zoom in on this so that you can see what it is. So let me go in, and hopefully this doesn't blur it up too much. Okay, so my particular one has a ruler down here. You can see that it measures in inches. Sometimes it's important when you're using a protractor to have a ruler, but sometimes they don't have them there, so it's no big deal if you don't, right? And then it has this little hole in the center, right? And then it has two sets of numbers going around the edge. You see how it goes one layer and then a second layer in here. And if you take a look at that really closely, you'll notice that the outer one starts, this outer layer right here starts at 0, and then it goes 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180. The inner layer, the 180 is right here, and the 0 is right here, all right? So this, we would go 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, all the way up to 110. So the outer one starts at 0, ends at 180, right to left, and then the inner one starts at 0 to 180, but it goes left to right. Now, why is that? Well, let me just draw let me draw a ray first, and I'll show you, and then I'll draw a second one so that you can see why it's important that it has those two different ways to count. So I'm going to draw this one right here. All right, now I showed you that little dot that's on there. All right, the job of the dot is to go right where the vertex is. Remember, that's the vertex, and I want to put the dot right in there. All right, now I don't want to put it like this. I want to make sure that I line up one of the rays. I want the vertex to stay right in the center, but I want one of the rays to line up with this hollowed out edge here. See how it's a hole right there? I want one of the rays to line up with that. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I've got my vertex in there, and I've got that ray just so that it crosses along this edge right here, and you can see it go right through 0 and come out the other side. Okay, let me back this up a little bit so that we get the full view of this. Okay, so it goes from the vertex straight through 0. That's how I know I'm doing a good job measuring, is because it goes right through there. And then it asks me to take and find out where this other ray crosses through. So if it goes up like this, right, it's right between, this is 50 and 60, And again, I'm starting from 0 right here, so I'm going 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. That's how I know it's between 50 and 60. This right here, the middle thing in between them is 55, 56, 57. So I would say that this ray, right, or this angle right here is 57, and then we measure in a unit called degrees, right? And that's the little symbol. It's the same as when you're measuring temperature, but it is not the same as temperature, right? They just use the same measurement, but it's not, like they use the same symbol and the same word, but it's not the same. So this is degrees as in measuring an angle versus when it's 80 degrees outside, it's not talking about an angle, it's talking about a temperature. So it's confusing if you just read it and there's no pictures or anything. You might have to think about what the context is they're talking about. But when you see an angle like that, it's degrees measuring an angle. All right, now let me draw another angle and I'll show you why we have the measurements going both directions. All right. Now, again, I'm going to take and I'm going to put that little dot right on the vertex. Boy, I did not do a very good job drawing that. I made it kind of bendy. A ray should be perfectly straight. So actually, let me use my ruler here to get it nice and straight. Let me make it a little bit bigger than the last one was, just so that we don't end up with a 57 again. All right, so I'm going to put that on there, but now when I go to line it up with the 0, it lines up with this 0 on the left side. All right, that means that we're starting here. We're not using the 180. We're going to start at 0 and count up like this. So 0, 10, 20. See how we're on the inside track now. So 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. This is just past 70, not quite to 80. Okay, so then I'm going to say, well, it's not even to 75 yet. 75 is halfway between 70 and 80. But it looks like I'm only at about 72 degrees. All right, so I'm going to say that this is 72 degrees. All right, so we have the numbering on both sides depending on where that first ray is that we measure from. So if it's coming out from the left, you use the 0 that's on the inside, and if it's coming out from the right, like this, right, then you use the 0 on the outside. Okay, so that is how you measure using a protractor. Now I want to show you one thing, and that is if I were to make a perfectly straight angle like this, of course I'm human, so this is probably not perfect, but remember we talked about this as being a right angle, where it makes a perfect L shape. Let's see how good I did here. I line that up so that my vertex is right here, and then my other ray goes across the 0 there. Sorry, I just realized how crooked I am in this video. This goes up, and again, I did a good job, not a perfect job, but it goes right up through 90 degrees. All right, you can see that right in the center. All right, so this is a right angle. And the measure of any right angle is 90 degrees, right? Another word for right angle, well, not right angle so much, but if two lines form a right angle or two rays form a right angle, they are called perpendicular. So if two rays form a right angle, or a 90-degree angle, they are called perpendicular. Okay, so if you see the word perpendicular, it means that they form a right angle or a 90-degree angle, and the way we show that is the same way I just drew it in the last video when I was drawing the squares and rectangles. That symbol right there means it's a right angle, it means that it's a 90-degree angle, and it means that these two rays, or we could have two lines, it means that they are perpendicular, right? So those three things kind of are synonymous with each other. They mean the same thing. Right angle means a 90-degree angle, which means that the two lines or the two rays that formed them were perpendicular. Okay, I am going to come back in another video and talk about some other words in geometry that are part of this set of problems.